responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you're with us on this Friday, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day. Guys, make sure you bring your wife some flowers or a card or, I don't know, make her dinner. My wife says, no flowers, please. No flowers. They're too expensive, she says, and they don't last very long. And so she prefers something a little more durable, long-lasting, like home decor. That's kind of what we do anyway here in our house. We don't buy each other a lot of stuff. We pretty much agree to buy each other. Oh, let's have this room painted. Let's have that room painted. You know. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'll get you in trouble if I tell you guys to go buy your wife flowers today, because maybe she's like, that's a waste of money or they'll die. I would have rather had the money to go buy a new sofa or something. Although I don't think a sofa and flowers cost quite the same, but you know, there you go. Happy Valentine's Day, Usama Doc.
Thank you, Brennan. And I did not know. I'm taking your advice, and I was gonna give my wife these flowers here are plastic. They live forever, but I'm not sure.
Your plastic studio set flowers. Well, I'm sure Vicky will love that.
The red and white and green, all these colors in it.
Yeah, it's all in it. Do they have Valentine's Day in Egypt? I don't think they do they?
We have 8 days in Egypt.
8 days?
Hate.
Oh, hate.
When a husband beat his wife, when a husband kill his wife, when some wife get victory over their husband, killing them, put them in small bags, that is what Muslims celebrate in Egypt. Just kidding.
But
we do not have.
But you're not really kidding, are you?
No, I'm serious. There's lots of hate and less love. Obviously, in the Christian homes in Egypt, we celebrate love not just one day a year, but all year long, as Christ commands us to love our wives as Christ loves the church. But it's not something Muslims know or know anything about, or I don't think they practice anywhere in the Muslim world a Valentine's Day for a man to love his wife. That is considered something Western, something no. The answer is no. Let me give you that short.
The answer is no. Okay. Well, I want to talk with you about why President Trump is right to say, look, we're cleaning out the Gaza and we're going to shove all of these folks into Jordan or Egypt. I want to talk about Egypt because, folks, Usama was born and raised in Egypt. Now, if you're a new listener, VCY is adding all kinds of new stations. And, of course, we have new listeners tuning up here at Worldview Tube. So I want to make it very clear. Usama is not a Muslim. He was never a Muslim. He was born into a Christian family. His daddy was a preacher, a teacher who planted churches, Baptist churches in Egypt. Most of them didn't last very long. They got burned to the ground by the peaceful, loving Islamists of Muslim Brotherhood, which was started where, folks? Egypt in 1928 by Albana. And then in 1987, Muslim Brotherhood started what, folks? Hamas, which carried out October 7th out of the Gaza. So there's not really anyone we could talk to that would be more knowledgeable about this topic than Usama. Usama speaks fluent Arabic, and he has translated the Quran perfectly from Arabic, word for word, into English, not whitewashed, not politically correct, not watered down so you don't really see the real truth about Islam. It's clearly translated accurately from Arabic into English, word for word. You can get a copy of his translated Quran with the study notes at thestraightway.org. Now, with that being said, let's talk about what President Trump is talking about. And he says, look, we're going to send these folks to Egypt. We're going to send them to Jordan. That's just the way it's going to be. And tell us about why Egypt doesn't want them, because I have a picture, Usama, I have more than one, but I have a few pictures of the barrier between the Gaza and Egypt. And we're talking about a wall that has to be, I don't know, that's got to be a 20, 25 foot tall wall at least, with all kinds of razor wire stretched across it. Clearly, the Egyptians don't want their Muslim brothers and sisters from the Gaza coming to their country. Why?
And believe it, Randy, you do not even need a wall to stop the Gazans from coming to Egypt, because they know that, as they have seen in the past, when people try to cross the border without any fence, they are shot dead. And the government of Egypt will not remove these bodies. They leave them there for the next one who's trying to cross the border to come to Egypt to know will be me, or this will be my family. So obviously that wall is huge. It's a powerful one, but we don't need the wall in Egypt to stop the Gazans from coming. They know they cannot come. And here's two important. First of all, Mr. Trump is 100% right. If you remove these 1 point whatever million of Gazans out of Gaza to Jordan and Egypt, that will end the problem with so-called Palestinians. They're not Palestinians, and sadly I can say many of the Arabs do not believe they're Arab either, because there are some mixed blood. So that is the end of the problem. But the Egyptian will tell you no. We just have some riots in Egypt a few days ago, and I think there will be more if we try to do our best here in America to force al-Sisi to take any, because we don't want them. They are troublemakers. You will never find, not just the Egyptian and the Jordanian and the Sudanese, whatever other countries, nobody will take them. They are troublemakers. I know who will take them. The Canadian will take them. The Americans will take them, but nobody else will take them. And let me give you the bottom line, Brennan. Why the Egyptian or the Jordanian will not take them? Because if we take them out, we're going to prove to the world that Trump is right. There will not be any more problem with the Palestinians. But that's not in the interest of Egypt, or that's not in the interest of the Muslim world who hate Israel. They want to have a problem, a continuing existing problem between Israel and the Muslims. Notice I'm talking about now religion. It is a spiritual problem, and it is going to continue to be until Christ comes back. And I don't think that it is in any interest of any Muslim country that we dismantle this problem and we have no problem between Israel and the Muslims or Islam. That's number one. Number two, as I said earlier, they are a problem. Who would like to have a fire to burn in the backyard of his home? Remember in Sadat days, in the late days of Mohammed Hosni Mubarak, when they crossed the border because we have some chaos there, we did not have a strong border, and they came to Egypt, what they did? They actually free the jihadi from our own prison, starting all the problems we have in Egypt afterwards. So, and when they went to Syria, they have problems. When they went to Iraq, they have problems. It doesn't matter. If you take the Palestinians in name only because they're not, and I'm going to tell you why they're not if you're interested, but nobody would like to have them. That's the end of the story.
So we'll get into that, but here's what I want to ask you, and that is, what, for the listener, explain what kind of Muslim or Islamist is in the Gaza versus what is in Egypt. Saudi Arabia, we know, are the Sunni Muslims. Iran are the Shiite Muslims. And of course, they, I guess, argue over who are the legitimate heirs of Muhammad, who are the legitimate leaders of Islam. So they disagree and they fight with each other, maybe the same way sometimes different Protestant denominations will argue with each other and debate each other. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so Saudi Arabia and Iran will agree at times, hey, we'll work together because we got this shared enemy. And then they go back to fighting a family feud later. What kind of Muslims are we talking about from Gaza to Egypt? We explain the Sunni, the Shiite. What do we got going on here?
The Gazan Muslims are all Sunni. And amazingly, even though they are the enemy of Hezbollah and the Muslim of Lebanon who are Shiite, and they are the enemy of Iran because they're Shiite. But somehow, as you just said, Brandon, you're absolutely right. In Islam, we have this ideology. Me and my brother is against our cousin, and me and my cousin against our enemy. And we all love the Muslim world, love the beauty of Gaza. They love the problem of Gaza because that gives them the backyard where they can fight with the Jewish people. You get rid of Gaza, what is the excuse for the Muslims to go on war with Israel or to do this invasion in any way, shape, or form, you want to say it, against the Jewish people? So they are Muslim Sunni, but when it comes to Israel, all the Muslims love them and don't love them for any aid. You will never see in the history of those so-called Palestinians, and they're not, that Egypt will send them food, rice or corn or flour or milk or anything. We don't send them any help. And if you think that we are doing that here in America because we're nice to them and we want to help them, we are wasting billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars. Throughout the years, we sent, since literally Mr. George W. Bush forced the Jewish people out of Gaza and gave it to the Gazans, and since that day until today, most of the aid which was sent to the people of Gaza, if it is medicine or food or whatever, it's sold in the black market. And the people, the leaders of Gaza, Hamas, the Muslim Jihadi of Gaza, are the one who's using that money to create it. I mean, they created hundreds of miles of tunnels. I mean, you're talking about wasting millions and millions of dollars for the purpose of having October 7, 2023. And they are planning to continue to do that. So it is, I don't know, who's going to help them, give them anything to benefit the people? Nobody. But all the Muslim world will help the people of Gaza, send them rockets, bombs, guns, weapons, whatever they needed to kill.
We won't send them food. We won't send them food, but we'll send them rockets and bombs. Now,
Sure.
your Muslims in the Gaza are Sunni, and Iran, they are Shiite, but Iran was heavily involved in helping to fund and carry out October 7th.
Because now the Muslims of Gaza are the useful idiots for Iran. Like the same thing was, if Lebanese Hezbollah can go down and wipe out the people of Israel in their own home countries, they will. But they can't. They have a hard time with it. So why not use these people which we hate as useful idiots, and they will do their job for us? I guarantee you, if you open the aid to the people of Gaza from the Muslim world, as you have said right now, by sending what benefit the people there, nobody will look at them. But let's open the line of aid with any weaponry to kill some Jews. Oh boy, they'll have all what they need to kill the last Jew in Israel.
Now let's talk about Egypt. We're going to go to a break here in 30 seconds. Let's talk about Egypt. How corrupt? Now you're born and raised in Egypt. You can't even go back to Egypt because, listening friends, he broadcasts in Arabic on satellite all into the Middle East. Okay, he's on satellite TV telling in Arabic the Muslims, the Egyptians, telling them in Egypt and other nations how evil Islam is, the blasphemy of Islam, and that they're not worshiping Allah, they're really worshiping Satan. And he tells them what a horrific religion this is, what a child molester, false prophet, pretender Muhammad was. So as a result, Usama cannot set foot back into his home country of Egypt ever in his lifetime. He wouldn't even make it out of the airport. The music's playing, but answer that, yes or no? You wouldn't even make it out of the airport, would you, Usama?
Most likely I'll be taken by the police in Egypt, or if they let me out, I'll be taken out by the Muslim Brotherhood outside the airport.
Taken out by the Muslim Brotherhood outside the airport, or taken by the police in the airport. All right, so we come back. Let's talk about how corrupt is the Egyptian government, because we continue to get reports, and I read one today that was from December of 2024. America is silent about Christian girls kidnapped by Islamists. Where? Egypt, his home country. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Hey, don't forget, Dr. Andy Woods and I will be in Milwaukee on Tuesday night, April 15th. Dr. Woods is traveling today. That's why he's not here. So if you'd like to be a part of our free Understanding the Times Worldview Radio rally, it is going to be on Tuesday evening, April 15th. At the Waukesha Expo Center. We'd love to have you join us. It's absolutely free, but you got to have a ticket so we can put out enough chairs and be ready for you. And so please spread the word. The website for that is worldviewtube.com/events. worldviewtube.com/events. Again, worldviewtube.com/events. Events. worldviewtube.com/events. Now, starts at 7 o'clock. On that April 15th, goes to about 9:30. Was on the phone last night with my friend, United States Congressman from the 6th District of Wisconsin, which would be Congressman Glenn Grotham. And Congressman Glenn, I'm going to have him on my broadcast next week. And I said, hey, Congressman, any chance you might be back in the district on the evening of the 15th of April? And he looked at his calendar. He said, I think I might be. So we might have Congressman Glenn Grotham with us to greet the crowd as well. So there you go. Please spread the word far and wide. I think Dan Eastman, attorney and Milwaukeean, Dan Eastman is going to join us as well in the audience. We'll greet him. And so there'll be a lot of folks to visit with. Be a great night of fellowship for sure. Again, worldviewtube.com/events. Spread the word far and wide, would you? Jim Schneider's going to be there with VCY. I think Dalton might even make an appearance as well. All right, so it's going to be a great get together. All right, we're joined right now by Usama Dakdok of thestraightway.org. Thestraightway.org. Here's an article dated December 8th, 2024. So not too many weeks ago, in the Jewish News Syndicate, America is silent about Christian girls kidnapped by Islamists, the life and suffering of the Coptic minority in Egypt is due to the Islamic invasion, dominance, and ongoing persecution that occurs under Islamic rule. What's the deal with the Egyptian government? Is it an Islamic government? Is it a secular government? What's the deal? I mean, I knew a few years ago you guys threw your president in prison. Mubarak, wasn't that his name?
You mean Morsi? Morsi, yeah. Mercy.
He
was the head of the Muslim Brotherhood for a whole year. He was the president of Egypt for a whole year. Actually, he was the choice of Barack Hussein Obama after he empowered the Muslim Brotherhood to take over Egypt, waiting for almost 100 years.
And that was the Arab Spring. That's what we refer to as the Arab Spring.
Yes, absolutely. Well, by the way, the Arab Spring did not start in Egypt. It started in Iran. And Mr. Barack Hussein Obama looked the other way and pretended there's no problem there, because if it was ever succeeded in Iran, that would be freeing the country of Iran from the Muslim or the true Muslim believer, Khomeini and his family. But obviously, he did not do any help there, but he tried to help the countries where the wrong team are on this Arab Spring movement. So it's sad. But go back to your question. Egyptians have been persecuted for the last 1,450 years or so, since Muslim came to Egypt 641 AD. That is the invasion of Egypt. And from that day until today, Egyptians have some hard years and some okay years. When we say okay years, not because there's peace or there's respect. No. Instead of they kill hundreds, they only kill few. Instead of we kidnap hundreds of girls in no time, a short time, once in a while, a few girls here, a few girls there. This never stopped, Brandon. This is the story of the Christians in Egypt. And the sad thing is the government in Egypt are not going to take our side, the Christian, to fight for these girls who've been kidnapped, because our government is like a mix between Islam and modern. So we have democracy, but not full democracy, Sharia, but not full Sharia. So they will take some of this and some of that mixed together. So Muslim will say these young girls are in love with Muslim men. These young girls converted to Islam. So what are you going to do about it? After all, if you want to do democracy, we believe in freedom of religion. Therefore, these girls will never be going back to their family. And some of them were never heard of until maybe 5 years later when they have 2-3 children. And the confession was shocking that they were raped, they were kidnapped, they were not converted to Islam. They never fall in love with a Muslim husband. On the other hand, if a Muslim man become a Christian, or if a Christian young lady from a Muslim background become a Christian, they will be arrested by the government of Egypt. Why? Because they're protecting her. Why? Because we got some Muslim brotherhood in Egypt, and those are true jealous. These jealous people will kill her or will kill him. So we're going to protect them in our prison system, which is actually a slow way of killing them.
Okay, let me stop right there. You're saying let me stop right there. Did you just say that if a Muslim becomes a Christian, that the government will arrest them and put them in custody to supposedly keep them safe because they've converted, but they're not really keeping them safe, they're just drawing out a slow suffering to die?
Sure, because they don't want that to continue. If they are doing everything to help the Muslims to kidnap our girls, why can't they do something about leaving the Christian young ladies or young men who left Islam free in the country? They will not allow Muslim to become a Christian, but they will accept the light of the Muslim after kidnapping our girls and force them to be married to some Muslim guy. And this is life. Because
okay, so how many millions live in Egypt, first of all? How many million?
Around 105 million, 108 million, something like that.
Okay, so let's say out of 105 million, what percentage of the country is Muslim? What percentage of the country is, say, Coptic Christian? Or what percentage of the country is atheist? Break it down.
We don't call any Muslims who do not believe in Islam in Egypt atheist. I don't think we will ever count the Muslim who convert to Christ as Christians. So the country, Muslim statistics have nothing to do with reality, which is some type of persecution. If you're going to tell me in Egypt there's only 5% Christian, as the statistics are, I'm sorry, we got more than 5 million Christian Egyptians out of Egypt. That means the country is empty. There's no Christians there. You see what I'm saying? If you count the Christian Egyptian in America, and those who are in Canada, and those who are in Australia, and those all over Europe, and some other countries around the world, we have more than 5 million. So obviously they're lying. I'm guessing 10% or so of the Christians, of the people of Egypt are Christian, and the rest are Muslims.
So you're saying 10% are in Egypt would be real Christians, like you, and 90% would be practicing Islam.
No. It's not even 50% of the 90% are practicing Islam. Thank God, less than 1/3 of them are true Muslims. These are the Muslim believers of the Brotherhood, start with Hassan al-Banna until today. So these are the Muslim believers in Egypt are not even 1/3 of those who are Muslims, and that obviously show.
Okay, now you just confused the living daylights out of me. So what you're saying, what I think what you're saying is there's Muslim by birth, right? And then there's Muslim or Islamist by practice. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So 90% of the country would claim to be a Muslim, 10% would claim to be Christians, but of the 90% that claim to be Muslims, only 1/3 of those are actually practicing Islam. Right?
That is the statistics. 35% or so of the Muslim of Egypt are Muslim Brotherhood, which means the true Muslim believers. So, practicing
the
Islam,
majority of your country could overthrow that 35%. Why don't
That's what we did. That's what we just did after the Muhammad Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood took over the country for a whole year. We actually did that. Why? Because you have more Muslims in Egypt who careless about Allah or Muhammad and Islam, and most of them, they know it. Even the Muslims who are practicing Islam, they know that there's something wrong with that Muhammad, there's something is wrong with Quran and Islam, because the reality is that technology, Brennan, destroyed Islam. For years, let me give you an example. For years, we believed in Egypt, we have one holy Quran, pure Arabic Quran, not one change on that Quran throughout this last 1400 years. Well, guess what? Today we have 24 at least I mean, my friend Hatun Tosh, she have in her hand, and I see it by my own eyes, 24 different Arabic Qurans. And the differences between these Arabic Qurans is astonishing. In the thousands, at least so far, we have 29,000 different words. And I'm not talking about just different pronunciation of the word or different little bit meaning. No, it is like, let me give you an example. Lamastum and lamastum. One of them will kill the man. The other one will just get somebody angry. So if you say that man lamasa the other man's wife, mean touched the other man's wife, that's lamasa. Lamasa, when you have a little bit in it, lamasa, means that man had sex with this man's wife. Now, somebody's gonna die if you both the right word. Did you touch my wife or did you have sex with my wife? You see the difference? So there's huge differences between one Arabic Quran and another Quran. And obviously, this explosion of the falsehood of the claim one pure Quran ended with the technology, because now we can go online like I'm talking with you, and I open different pages from the Quran side by side, and I show the Muslims that there is no such a thing as one holy Quran, never been changed. You have a corrupt book, and now we have the internet to do all the ministries online where we destroyed Islam. And so obviously, result of the technology and the internet, millions of Muslims, I'm not talking about hundreds of thousands, but millions of Muslims in Egypt left Islam. Sadly, majority of them become atheists. Some say agnostic. Yeah, there may be God out there, but I don't know who is he. And only in the thousands of these Muslims become a Christian in Egypt. But once again, our country will not count the true number of Christian by birth. And for sure, they will never add those new converts who left Islam to Christianity, because that is a no-no in the Muslim world.
All right, so fascinating history. All right, so tell me what you see coming in the Middle East. What do you think is going to happen in the Middle East? President Trump saying we're going to clean out Gaza. We're not going to let them back in here. They're going to go to Jordan. They're going to go to Egypt. We're going to develop this area. What do you see coming in the Middle East?
Nothing.
Really?
Simply nothing. It's okay. I love what Trump is trying to do. But it will never be, because you will never get two Muslim countries of the 57 Muslim countries who will allow that great vision of Mr. Trump, which is a perfect solution. Nobody will have one Muslim family from Gaza in their countries. Give me a name of a country who will bring some Muslims from Gaza to their borders and welcome them and make them part of their family. The answer is absolutely no. Brennan, I talked to you about that many times in the past, and I say, this will never be.
So you're telling me
likes the people.
Nobody likes the people of Gaza?
Canadian, yes. Yeah, American, yes. Because we're stupid.
America.
Let me remind you of something happened. Remember when Kamala was doing this movement, love the people coming from the border? Some guys got so smart, and they actually talk with them in their car too. People look like Mexicans or something like that, and they knock at the homes of the Democrats who have a sign of Biden and Kamala Harris in front of their homes. And they said, thank you so much for being good Democrats. And they said, well, we got two guys with us here just crossed the border a few minutes ago. Would you mind to keep them with you for a few weeks? And they said, oh no, we have children. Oh no, we cannot do that. That's exactly the situation in the Middle East. Nobody will welcome the people of Gaza because they are troublemakers.
Nobody will welcome the people of Gaza. They're troublemakers. So when we come back, I'm going to ask you again, what is going to happen? Are we going to find ourselves 2 years down the line? And what will be the condition and state 2 years down the line? Do you see some kind of peace deal coming at all that will set up the fulfillment or stage to be set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled? That and more with Usama Dakta. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Okay, joining me now is Usama Dakdok. TheStraightWay.org is his website, TheStraightWay.org. Usama and I have been friends a very, very long time. So, Usama, 2 years from now, what do you see happening? I mean, Donald Trump's saying, look, no, I'm going to put pressure on Jordan. I'm going to put pressure on Egypt. And I'm not going to let them, we're not going to give them foreign aid if they don't take some of these people. So you're saying he's not going to be able to accomplish that?
No, absolutely not. I believe I have the answer for Mr. Trump. I have the answer for the Muslims of Gaza, which will end that problem for good. They're seeking freedom, and they can have that freedom, which they cannot find but in one place. It is through Jesus Christ, who can free not only the people of Gaza, but even the Jewish people who live near them. Here's the fact, Brother Brennan. You cannot fix cancer by adding makeup. If somebody have cancer, say in their face, that woman, she just put extra layer of makeup, that will not fix the problem. You're not fixing the problem. The problem with those who call themselves Palestinian is their ignorance of the true history of that piece of land. They actually believe, and the people of the West got to believe the same lie, that these are the original Palestinians who used to live in that land years ago. We have a very, very powerful PowerPoint presentation, which is called Israel or Palestine. In it, we talk about the original Palestinians. As a matter of fact, I talk about the original people who used to live in that land years and years before Abraham even went there. If you look at this list in Genesis account and in Exodus account, that is in Abraham days and that is in Moses days, you will not see the word Palestinians or Palestine. They were not the original people of the land. But the original Palestinians who live in that land were actually demolished, completely removed from the land 604 BC. That is before Christ. How this happened, that was the fulfillment of the prophecy of Prophet Jeremiah and Prophet Ezekiel, who said that the day is coming and the king and the judgment of God coming from the north, and the people of Palestine, the Palestinians who are, by the way, Greek, they are from Greece. They came through that land through Captor, and Ramses III in Egypt resettled them in 5 cities. One of them is called Gaza. This is history. That is what it needs to be taught. When Nebuchadnezzar came, he wiped out the leftover of the Palestinians, as the scripture foretold. They will be plundered, they will be perished. And no more Palestinians ever lived in that land since 604 before Christ. Now, if we can teach these truths and these facts to the Muslims, explain to them that you are believing in a lie, you are believing in a bubble in your head that you are the Palestinians. You are not. DNA, Brennan, I use this in my PowerPoint as well to show that DNA proof the original Palestinians, those who were buried in that land before the Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed that land and killed the last one of them, their DNA go back to the people of Greece, not the people Arab. Arab did not go to that land until 642 after Christ. It is like way 1200 plus years. They are not pure Arab, as I said earlier. They're mixed blood with many other people, as they were being raped by those Muslims who come from the north and the south and the east. So it is a problem. It's a problem. They are uneducated about who they are. If they found out they are not Palestinians and they have no right to be in that land, and that Islam is falsehood, Muhammad is not a prophet, and by the way, nothing is mentioned in the Quran about Palestine or the Palestinians or Philistinians in the Arabic words pronunciation. So that is what these people need. They need to be set free from the lies they believe. First, about they are Palestinians or Palestinians. Second, that there's some truth in Islam. If that day comes, you will see the Muslims of Gaza becoming a Christian. And in that case, they will be set free. And only Christ, the Son of God, who died on the cross to save them from their sins, can set them free, and they will be free indeed. Besides that, we'll continue to have war until the Lord Jesus Christ come back, as we know the scripture already wrote about that.
Amen to that. All right, so Usama, is Donald Trump going to be able to put in some kind of peace deal that eventually the Antichrist will come along and confirm. The late Dr. Jimmy D. Young and so many others believe that whether it was the Oslo Accord, Camp David Accords, a lot of these different agreements are going to be put into place, and then someone's going to come along and confirm them. Do you think Donald Trump will be able to get an additional peace agreement of some kind that will later be confirmed by the son of perdition or the Antichrist?
They will cry for peace, and there will not be peace, as Scripture said. And I believe there'll be some time in the next 3 years because we have power or powerful president in America, where we call it temporary peace. Yeah, there'll be a little bit invasion here and there, some attacks here, some attacks there, and we just need to shut down all the military aid which the Muslim will be sending to those who are the remnant of Gaza. They're not going to leave Gaza. There will never be peace in Gaza, and sadly, that is the place where the devil will continue to do his work. And but if we have another president after Mr. Trump, who is like Biden or Obama, for sure, things are going to get real worse out of Gaza towards Israel, and sadly, from the West Bank, which I call Judea, Samaritan land, and the rest of the Muslim world.
Let's open up the phone lines, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions for Usama Dakdok, 1-800-347-9829. All right. Have you kept up at all with the fact that, as we've been talking now for a few weeks, I guess there's been a plan for a Ben Gurion canal to cut right through the Gaza. Are you aware of this?
No, that's a brand new information for me. I'm a little bit busy with other things I'm doing in our ministry in the state, but you can teach me a little bit about it.
Well, the Times of Israel and others are reporting that there's a plan to cut a canal right through the Gaza for shipping. And of course, the thought is that maybe in part that's what this is really all about, is to bring some economic instability and maybe lure in Egypt and Jordan over some of these things. So. Is there anything you think could lure Egypt and Jordan? You're laughing already. I haven't even finished the question. Is there anything that could lure Egypt and Jordan into cooperating with President Trump?
Well, if you make that canal, you'll help the Muslim to send more weapons to the Gazans, and you help the Muslim Gazans to be the pirates of their days. Nothing is going to go in that channel except stuff to hurt the Jewish people or stuff to be stolen by the Muslim people. I don't know how successful this thing will be. I mean, what is the purpose? What is the purpose for, you think this will help the people of Gaza economically? They're going to give them some business to do? What kind of business? Like Muhammad's business, which he led 1400 some years ago, as he was literally, what do you call this, road cutter? What do you call it? I don't know how to say it in English. The guys who steal people on the roads, robbers and pirates. I mean, are we learning anything from what the Muslims are doing right now in the world, that we're going to create business for the Muslim of Gaza of kidnapping and stealing? All the goods are going to go in that water? Well, you give it a try. Give me a call sometime in the future. Tell me how successful that deal is. I'd love to know from you.
What do you think is going to happen with Israel and Iran? What are we going to do? And how concerned are you about terror cells in the U.S.? We've talked a lot about all these terrorists that are here. America seems to have gotten, by pretty good. Terrorist attacks here and there, obviously, are very tragic for the lives lost and people injured. But overall, we haven't had an October 7th event. Do you anticipate an October 7th style event here in the U.S., particularly if America and the U.S. go after America and Israel go after Iran?
I don't know about America go with Israel after Iran. I would love to see America help the Iranian people, the true freedom fighter of Iran, to take over their country and throw Khomeini and his people in somewhere else. I mean, kill them all or arrest them all. You got the perfect country which you can create a real democracy in the Muslim world. Is called Iran, but that's not what we're going to do. We can spend twice as much effort and money to help Israel to go in war with Iran, which is going to be unsuccessful war once again, because the scripture already foretold us that Iran will be in war with Israel. So you're not going to wipe out Iran. Why not help the people of Iran with less effort, with less money, with less whatever power you put in it, to free their own country from Khomeini and the Muslim jihadi of Iran.
I agree with all that. Let me interrupt you before I go to a very interesting caller here. What do you think is going to happen with all the terror cells in the U.S.? Do you think we're going to get them cleaned out, or do you think we're going to see an October 7th style event here in the U.S.?
I believe there's plenty of Muslims in America, and if they will be successful, even 10% of what I know they are capable of doing, they will destroy America from within. You do not have to worry about the fire in Los Angeles. It will be the fire of America. Brandon, if 5% of the Muslims who live in America work together to burn this country, they can burn it twice in 5 minutes. And
do you think LA was terrorism?
Absolutely. There's some, I mean, if it walk like a duck, it smell like a duck, and sound like a duck, whatever, what are you saying? There's so much damage done by Muslims all over America, but we will not confess it. And actually, they will allow it. The liberals will allow it. So I believe personally that if Muslims work hard to do what they are capable of doing, they don't need bombs, they don't need cars to mow the American people and kill them in different places. All they need to do is go by a gas station owned by a Muslim guy and borrow a gallon of gas and a free match. This country can be burned to the ground, and there is not enough water or fire department in planet Earth to stop the burning of America. That is just the war of fire or the jihad of fire, and Muslims are capable to do it. Sadly,
and well, we know that they even talked about that and published it in one of their Al-Qaeda magazines a decade ago or more, that they could use fire to create terrorism.
They did it in Australia, Brandon. They did it in Australia 20 years ago. I talked about it because of Australia. I did not come up with that idea because I'm so intelligent. They did it in Australia, and the world did not talk about it. And now in America, we got what, 4 or 5 million more Muslims in our country in the last 20 years or so. So they're bad.
Let's go to Laura from Michigan, line 1. Hi, Laura. Thanks for calling in, Laura.
Hi, I just wanted to say my husband and I attended a Defense Institute for Securities Management class, and we were on the way to the U.S. Embassy, and a gentleman sitting next to us, he was going to one of the little countries over in the Middle East, and probably was Bahrain or maybe Qatar, whatever, but he said, how strange, you know? He looked at us, he said, why, all the countries around here, I'm studying them, and not one country will take the Palestinians, those refugees, so-called. He said, isn't that interesting? So I wanted to verify what Osama is saying. Osama Dagdad is saying that is correct. He's 100% correct. Wow. They will not take, and I can verify that from being inside and working inside the government, and actually we're going to the security class.
Were you at a U.S. embassy somewhere in the world?
Yes, and I had to go to anti-terrorism classes and stuff because I was in the Horn of Africa. And my husband he was regional security, and I was actually trying to help defend the poor Ethiopians against terrorism, and they're surrounded with Somalia, Sudan, and everything. According to the officer, an Air Force officer from the Ethiopian military, he told me, he said the terrorists are so bad in Somalia, he said you would never call them animals. He said that's an insult to animals. Wow. They're so violent.
Isn't Laura, Somalia, isn't that where we had... Black Hawk Down? Was that Mr. Disho or whatever it's called? Black Hawk Down?
Yes, exactly.
Laura, did they, in your training, did they mention Islam, or was that purged?
We were very well aware. I don't think we really, I actually had to tell the class, they didn't know that Indonesia was the biggest Islamic country in the world. Nobody else knew that in my class except for myself in my anti-terrorism training.
Hold right there if you can for 1 second. I want to ask her if they actually taught about Islam, or was that when, as Phil Haney said, everything was purged. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. WorldviewTalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Real quick, I want to go back to Laura. Laura, in your class, Phil Haney talked about the Great Purge during Obama. I don't know what years you were in your training or if you want to tell us, but was there any kind of purging such that the class didn't even understand what it is they were being briefed on? In other words, was Islam so whitewashed that the people going through this anti-terrorism training didn't even know Islam was the ones carrying out the terrorism?
I don't think we were allowed to really discuss it. It was like known that they were Islamic countries, but our teacher, I think he just kind of, maybe he mentioned it just a little bit. There was no emphasis on that at all. It was just kind of whitewashed. I would have to say it was whitewashed.
Was this during the Obama years?
It was during the Bush Jr. years, correct, Doug? Hey, it was 2006, 2007. Everything. There was so much political correctness already in the deep state I was surrounded by. I could not believe it.
Wow. Laura, I'm so glad you called in. Very valuable caller today. Thank you, Laura, and thank your husband.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for what you guys are doing out there. Thanks for warning people.
Thank you, Laura. Wow, that's a great phone call. Let's go to Jason in Minnesota. Hi, Jason, line 4. Go ahead, Jason.
Go again.
Hi, Jason. Go right ahead.
Hi. In regards to the people of Gaza, we occasionally hear talk of Christians living in that area. Has that been in any discussions or news, what these people are going to do? What are their thoughts towards Israel? It sure seemed to me if I was a Christian living in Gaza, I would have got out of there a long time ago. But I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts.
All right. Usama, great question, Jason. Usama.
Sure.
Christians in the Gaza?
Yes, we have a few thousands of Christians live in Gaza. They have, I believe, a couple of churches there. And they are really living in fears. They're living with less food than you can imagine. And if you think that Canada already took 5,000 of the refugees of Gaza, why America did not get all these Christians out of Gaza to safety here? After all, these are the only true people we can give them the title refugees. And sadly, we're not doing that in America, not just with Gaza, but with the rest of the Muslim world. We bring Al-Shabaab, Muslim jihadi from Somalia to America as refugees, but we will not bring Christians from Somalia. And I can name for you every Muslim country where we bring Muslims as refugees, but we hardly think about the Christians who are true persecuted people throughout all these lands. And that is something maybe Mr. Trump needs to think of. If he's going to bring some people from Gaza to America, let's bring all the Christians and let them to be set free, because they are the only one who will be qualified to come to America, because that's the truth, that's reality.
Let's go to David, line 2, David in Florida. Hi, David.
Hi, Brandon. My question is for Usama. And Usama, knowing the biblical story of the Lord meeting Hagar in the desert after she ran away from Sarah and Abraham's house there, and the Lord saying that he would make her offspring into a great nation. And please forgive my ignorance, but knowing that that nation would grow up to be Islam, and Islam would be in direct confrontation with Christianity, I've always wondered why did the Lord do that? Why did he meet her and say that that they would become a great nation? I don't understand the history of that. Can he speak to that? That's a good question.
Yes, bro. Here's the deal. The Ishmaelites, the descendant of Ishmael, the 12 sons whom we read about in Genesis chapter 25, have nothing to do with the Arab. The Arab actually are the descendant of Keturah, and that is where the Islam starts. The Ishmaelite lived between Havilah and Assyria north, while the Arab, the descendant of Keturah, by the way, you can read all that in Genesis chapter 25, the first 6 verses. They live in the country of the east. that is the Saudi Arabia land. So we confuse the Ishmaelites with the Arabs, and we think that Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael, when in reality he is a descendant of the Arabs, Keturah's children and grandchildren. We can talk about that for a whole show. Maybe Brandon can do one in the future. Wow. And it is amazing that we Christians in America continue to repeat the lies that Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, which is not true. And by the way, we do not even know who is Muhammad's father was. And if you don't know who is your father, you cannot tie yourself to any specific people group, because 100% we know that Abdullah, the claimed father of Muhammad, died 3 years before Muhammad was born. But us Muslim scholars come up with a good solution. Yes, he died 3 years, but in Islam, a woman can be pregnant up to 4 years. So with that case, is the study here, you're laughing, Brandon. We got a case in Egypt where the Mufti of Egypt made the decree, make a fatwa to say that that man's son, who was born 3 years after he left and went to Saudi Arabia, is his son. He came back to Egypt to say that my wife cheated on me and she had that child. The son is not my son. He's illegitimate and he's not my son, period, because I never saw him for 3 years. And the Mufti of Egypt gives a fatwa, yes, he is your son because it was only 3 years. And in Sharia, up to 4 years. So in simple words, we do not know who is Abdullah. Is Abdullah the father of Muhammad or not? Obviously, he is not. Therefore, if you don't know who is the father of Muhammad, how in the world you can tie Muhammad to any people group, period?
Wow, there you go. Tom, Minnesota, line 1. Tom in Minnesota. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Usama and Brandon. Thanks for your show. And just a question for Usama. What do you think the general populace of Egypt thinks of the state of Israel and the Jewish people?
Sadly, majority of Egyptian, even some Christian like Orthodox people I know personally, do not believe that Israel has the right to take that land. Once again, because my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And majority of Egyptians, they do think that when you go to the Bible, you read the word Philistine or Palestinians, which is in the Old Testament, you're talking about the same people who live there. Once again, ignorance is a good reason why people do not know that. I think the whole world needs to be educated on the topic of Israel and Palestine. That is the only hope for the people of the world to stand up with Israel, because that is their homeland given by God Almighty through Moses, as even stated in the Quran. I mean, you go to Quran chapter 5, verses 20 to 26, you read the same story we have in the Bible, that it is Allah who gave Moses that land, and they took it 40 years after they left Egypt. This is the history which people need to know.
Usama Dakdoc, thestraightway.org, thestraightway.org. Thank you, my very special friend.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it, brother.
Usama Dakdoc checking in. Stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up on the VCY America Network, vcy.org, vcy.org. And don't forget, we have the Worldview Rally with Dr. Andy Woods, myself, and some special guests. April 15th at the Waukesha Expo Center. You can register for the free ticket at worldviewtube.com/events.
This has been...
And that's our broadcast on those stations. We're back with WROS out of Florida, and of course here at Worldview Tube. President Trump has just signed an executive order banning federal funds to schools that mandate the COVID death shot. Watch this. For people on radio, he's signing, and he's holding it up for the cameras.
Yes, it'll go through the Department of Education.
So there you go. I thought he maybe would say a little more about that. That's kind of anticlimactic for radio. But let's see what else we have here. Have you guys seen the video footage from one of the guys in the White House? One of the guys in the White House is Dan Scavino. Dan Scavino. What is Dan's name? What's Dan's title? I guess he's Assistant to the President and White House Deputy Chief of Staff. There you go. Well, if you guys haven't seen it, you ought to go on Dan Scavino's X account today, because he's just put out a video walking from the private office. Maybe a lot of folks don't know this, but the president has a private office off the Oval Office. Okay, the Oval Office is more of a ceremonial office. His private office, if you're sitting at the Oval Office desk, And if you look to the left, there's a door right there. And that door goes down a hallway, where you right immediately you run into onto one side is his private office. There's a bathroom, and then a little bit further in, there is a private dining room there where he has lunch, can bring in private guests and have lunch or whatever. So in the hallway that goes from his private office suite into the Oval Office, he now has a golden framed picture of the New York Post with his mugshot when they took his mugshot down in Georgia. So he's pretty proud of it. And apparently the press today is going nuts. Now, I'm going to correct myself because that was not coming from that private hallway. That actually is interesting. I thought it was coming from the private hallway that it's to the right now as we're looking at the room. That's actually coming from what looks like to be the door from his secretary. If you come through that door, that's where his main personal secretary sits to come into the Oval Office by the big grandfather clock. So that means what that means is all of the guests that come through that door, which is a lot of them, including his staff, a lot of them would come through that door because the secretary's sitting there and handling guests and handling appointments and all that. The last thing they see before they walk through the door is Donald Trump's mugshot. So that is definitely, I think, helps us understand and set the tone for this Trump administration, and good for him. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but this is pretty powerful. Somehow it got by us. I'm going to play this tonight on our Washington Worldview Tube report with Neil McCabe. But yesterday in the Oval Office, meeting with the leader of India, President Trump says, we're going to go to election day, not election month. We're going to require IDs, and we need to go to paper. Whoa, how did this get by us? Here we go.
President Trump, first of all, congratulations for the fantastic 24 days of your presidency. Historic and unprecedented decisions that you made, transformational reforms. I'm particularly impressed by the expose on USAID. And I would like you to share with us if you think USAID had a role in election interference in the US in 2020 and Indian elections in 2024.
So it could have had a role. There were a lot of bad things that happened in 2020. I think bad things happened in 2024, but it was too big to rig. We won by a tremendous margin. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions of votes. So it was too big to rig. But yeah, I think they probably tried. We're looking to go to a system now much different, where one-day voting, voter ID, and we have to do that. And paper ballots. We want paper ballots. And when they do that, we're going to clean it up very, very well. But we had a great 2016. We had a...
There you go. There you go, folks. And that may mean we actually can save America for a while. That may mean that we actually have a free country for a little bit longer. Because my concern, of course, is that we would roll from President Trump. They'd rig the election. You go right to a Kamala Harris type character, and we're right back to where we were. But if we go to one day, voter ID required, paper, counted in one day, the Dems, the Marxists, the globalists, the elitists, the power elite, the statists, whatever you want to call them, they can't steal the election. And then the will of the people can actually be heard. Imagine that, a constitutional republic. Oh, hey, do you appreciate our broadcast? If you do, we need your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. You notice we don't stop and promote pickup trucks and sell soap or cruises or whatever else it is they sell on. Lots of big pharma, lots of drugs with lots of, it may cause seizure or death. We don't promote any of that. Why? Because we pretty much try to keep it just full of great content because you make it possible when you do that. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Support us. Don't make me sell pickup trucks. Thank you.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the vice commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Here are just a few other examples. The American people elected Donald Trump as their president not once but twice, and yet the FBI and intelligence agencies were politicized by his opponents to undermine his presidency and falsely portray him as a puppet of Putin. Title I of FISA was used illegally to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, using a Clinton campaign-funded false dossier as their so-called evidence. Biden campaign advisor Tony Blinken was the impetus for the 51 former senior intelligence officials' letter dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation specifically to help Biden win the election. Former DNI James Clapper lied to this committee in 2013, denying the existence of programs that facilitated the mass collection of millions of Americans' phone and internet records, yet was never held accountable. Under John Brennan's leadership, the CIA abused its power to spy on Congress, to dodge oversight, lied about doing it until he was caught, and yet has never been held responsible. Under Biden, the FBI abused its power for political reasons to try to surveil Catholics who attend traditional Latin Mass, labeling them as quote-unquote radical traditionalist Catholics. Personally, just 24 hours after I criticized Kamala Harris and her nomination, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. Sadly, there are more examples. The bottom line is this must end.
These confirmations are signaling badly needed change for the FBI. Welcome back to Transition Tuesday. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube, our X Spaces simulcast, Rumble, YouTube, Truth Social Plus, and Roku. Well, what kind of change, though? That's the question. The American people's trust in the FBI and our national intelligence agencies is at an all-time low, and for good reason. As Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard pointed out in her confirmation hearing that you just saw, the overt politicization of these organizations has resulted in multiple layers of failures to protect the American people and are so brazen, the FBI even denied that the January 1 New Orleans terrorist attack was related to ISIS or even a terrorist attack at all initially, even though the evidence was clear for all of us to see. Intelligence agency leaders have lied and tampered with our elections and are in fact attempting to sabotage the second Trump administration's policy implementation. The evidence is very clear that FBI leaders are insubordinate to the Department of Justice directives over the January 6th case agents and participant identification requests. It even appears leaks about ICE raids to arrest illegal aliens might have been coming from the FBI itself, putting law enforcement agents' lives at high risk. It's unbelievable. This level of abysmal performance of duty intended to keep Americans secure and safe has to be addressed immediately, or people will die needlessly. And I hate to say that because it gets overused, especially by the other side politically. Well, my guest today is Chris Peyota, a former senior executive assistant director who retired from the Federal Bureau of Investigation after nearly 25 years of experience. He's a recognized leader who led complex national security investigations, international security programs, and covert operational technology platforms. He's also a PhD and author of the book, Wanted, the FBI I Once Knew. Welcome, Chris, to the Rob Maness Show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you and your audience today.
Hey, man, I have to ask you, I was at the Pentagon on 9/11. Were you in Washington on 9/11? Because you write a lot about the post-9/11 path of the FBI, and I want to get into that. Are we following the same type of pathways?
No, actually, on the tragic day of September 11, 2001, I was assigned to the Newark, New Jersey field office. And I saw the smoke rising from the first tower strike out my office window. And, stayed in Newark through February, where then I went to headquarters to help out in the post 9/11 world. So I didn't get to the DC area until about February of 2002.
Okay. Well, it was a tragic day. And, you know, I have friends that live in New Jersey that were impacted directly by the attack on New York City. And it's heartrending to even think about it.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm curious about, and you write a lot about it in your book, and I think it's a discussion the American people need to hear from somebody that really witnessed this up close, is what happened to the FBI post 9/11, 2001, that has led us to where we're at today, from this whole politicization issue, its duties, its culture. What were the structural and organization and cultural changes that happened after 9/11? Well intended, I'm sure, but they are having an impact on what we're seeing happen today.
Sure, a lot of strategic changes were made after the perceived and actual failures of 9/11 on the part of the FBI. I mean, basically, we had our tails kicked, right? The adversary was better than we were, and as a result, people lost their loved ones, family members, friends, and we knew that could never happen again. So the FBI had to make some structural changes, and it also made a very large operational shift from a traditional law enforcement kind of cops and robbers organization to more of a domestic security and intelligence organization. And it was a very violent shift after 9/11 to become more predictive and preventative. We were working to investigate the 9/11 tragedy, but we were also working to prevent any future, further, or additional terrorist activities that could have been in the works. So this was a complete and total changeover for the FBI and its people. The problems that came up came from the political, social, and I would say internal FBI dynamics that after 9/11, there was talk about splitting the FBI up into different components. Director Mueller at the time was able to fend off those requests and inquiries from our national leadership. But in doing so, the FBI became much more conciliatory toward political influence. And I think we lost our ability to navigate that political environment as well as the FBI used to. So that's where it started. And that's where it progressed through those years, through the culture changes, through the leadership changes, and also strategically, the FBI changed its hiring practices. And it started hiring people from different backgrounds in the university set and deprioritized the hiring of former law enforcement, former military personnel. So then we saw a ideological shift over time that they couldn't see then, but you can see it now. The changes to the FBI's philosophies, its values, and its beliefs. That's where it started.
Yeah. The FBI has always had a national security aspect to its operations, in addition to the old crime fighting, law enforcement piece. That when I think of the FBI as a kid, I think of Elliot Ness. Right. The anti-gang task force, going after John Dillinger, those kind of law enforcement activities. But I also think of the FBI looking for Soviet spy sleeper cells inside the United States, in the Western Hemisphere, tracking down communist cells that might be trying to spring up and take over other countries in our hemisphere and those kind of things. But one of the things that I think I've noticed, and I wanted to get your take on it since you witnessed it, is this intelligence piece. Has it really? And from my perspective, I think it has anecdotally, but I don't have the data because I'm not on the inside. But it appears that the domestic intelligence aspect and the apparatus within the FBI has completely overtaken all other missions, including the international security mission that I just talked about. And you talked about the law enforcement piece of it. And later in the show, we'll see a clip from Kash Patel's hearing where he talks about the crime fighting aspect of it. So is that what has been allowed to happen as the culture has changed through bringing in new types of people that are more politically acclimated? It seems like a lot of them lean to the left from our perspective out here as citizens anyway. This intelligence piece is really concerning because of all the tools that have been developed and put in place to spy on the American people themselves, instead of looking at us domestically to find our enemies' spies. It seems like it's overly focused on us.
Yeah, over time, I mean, we became a multi-generational, multi-ideological FBI, and the FBI leadership over the past several iterations has been unwilling or unable to reorient people as they come into the organization to FBI traditional cultural beliefs, leadership practices, and operational practices. And the last several iterations of leadership actually capitulated to the newer folks and started allowing some of this more, as you said, left-leaning type of belief and behavior, but they also became much more conciliatory to certain more liberal positions that were never the positions of the FBI that I grew up in and that I wrote about, right? We were schooled by the old breed of special agents, and we were told this is how you will conduct business. These are the behaviors that are acceptable, and they policed that. You know, the old guys and ladies, they policed how we behaved as new agents, and I think those mentors have all since timed out. They've all left, and now you have generations of mentors who have those more liberal beliefs mentoring new people. So you're seeing that cultural shift. The FBI did not do a good job of bringing people in and assimilating them into the traditional FBI culture.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because you know, like you, I'm a 30+ year government service guy, military on the military side, and I want our law enforcement to be successful. I want our counterintelligence to be successful. I want, if there are bad people that are intent on terrorism amongst my own citizenry, I want that to be found. I think the average American wants it to be found. But the tools that we now give these folks are so intrusive and so easy to use, and the system appears like the FISA system appears easily manipulated in order to allow partisan ideology into the decision-making process. In the next segment, I want to get into some of the changes you think need to occur to mitigate that, because, you know, Chris, the FBI has always been known as a tough law enforcement force, going after people in our own country, our own citizens, like, you know, the gangs from the 1920s and 30s and those kind of things. But they were also seen as, and maybe this is just too anecdotal, but they were seen as heroes to the average kid.
No,
you know,
that's
Elliot,
true.
you say
That
the word Elliot Ness to a person that's our age, and we were kids when that show was on,
right.
And that's what we conjure up. You know, you say, you know, talk about the old show, the FBI, I think from with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And that's the kind of heroic measures they're stable. They believe in America. They're not going to hurt me or my family individually. But the American people don't feel that way anymore. We have a long road to travel to get back.
I agree. And here's the shame of it, as I think the last couple of iterations of leadership have squandered the respect and trust that the FBI worked for decades to build. And what I was telling somebody recently is the FBI exists on two sides of the same coin. On one side of that coin, the FBI should be feared by our adversaries and our enemies and criminals. On the other side of that coin, the FBI should be trusted And people should be glad to see us when we're around because they know that we're there to protect them. We're there to enforce the law in a fair, objective, apolitical manner. And the word of the FBI at one point used to be sacrosanct, never questioned. Yeah. Now the word of the FBI is worth much. I'll just say it's worth much less than it once was.
Yeah, the phrase FBI lie is pretty common amongst the American people these days. Well, we got to take a break. When we come back, though, we'll see another clip about the FBI leadership being insubordinate here with Chris Peyote on the Rob Maness Show.